Rise Minions, and welcome to unMadeGaming. We are here and we are back for another episode of our latest series, Vaesen. This one is called Mundus Novus. As a reminder, we played the first two arcs of this campaign offline, not streamed. We are entering the third arc where we are in New Orleans. Yeah, we're a couple episodes into New Orleans. So as always, if you guys like what we do here, you want to support the channel, the best way to do that is over on our Patreon. A link for that down below. While you're down there, click on that Discord link, join us in the Discord, be a part of the community, be a part of the conversation. And without further ado, previously on Mundus Novus. Welcomed to the home of their patron, Madeleine Boudreau, our investigators began to assemble what little clues were currently available to them regarding the recent murders. Madame Boudreau insinuates that there are two parties involved, based on the style of murders, and that the local constabulary is stretched thin solving them. Concluding their first meeting, Madame Boudreau gives Cyrus the keys to Église Saint-Lumier, the church her deceased husband presided over, as their headquarters. So she has left. The six of you. The six of you are at Église Saint-Lumier. You have made it inside. So as you were given this wrought iron key to enter into here, as a small cemetery outside. And the larger church. It's not a large church. It's a small like community church. And as a reminder, since it's been many moons since we last played here, nestled in the heart of the French Quarter, this 19th century church stands as a testament to time. Once a place bustling with parishioners, it has been gently abandoned over the years and has fallen into disuse. The facade is weathered, but the intricate architectural details still hint at its former grandeur. Stained glass windows are remarkably intact, albeit covered in grime, casting a muted light within the interior. The inside of the church is draped in shadow, giving it an ethereal atmosphere. The pews are coated in dust, and hymnal books lie scattered, their pages yellowed. The old pipe organ sits at the rear, its keys worn but still functional. That's it. Other than that, it's pretty stock standard little church. There is no rectory here. There are no real. There's like a small office in the back, but he lived around the corner, so there's no reason for him to stay here. Yeah, so you guys have gathered your information from Miss Madeleine Boudreau about what's been going on here. You have entered into Église Saint-Lumier, and you are plotting what to do next. It is probably a little after midday, probably like the 1 to 2 range in the afternoon. So early afternoon. What are you all doing here?
Correct my memory of it. We had decided we might stay here or use this as the base of operations.
Yes, you do. You all do have a
we have nice rooms somewhere else.
You have nice rooms elsewhere. So you do have a hotel. All of you have rooms at a hotel called Chateau Nouveau. However, it may be difficult to conduct supernatural investigations out of a popular hotel on the main street. Just a thought,
Yeah, but they have indoor plumbing, so
that's true. They do have that. You are not required to. Yeah, you are not required to sleep here. But this was offered to you as a place to conduct your research and investigations from. So yeah, I believe we ended the last session where you guys basically entered and got a visual of the place, but you haven't had any chance to discuss what the heck you're doing next or check this place out at all.
And it's a converted chapel or abandoned chapel, right?
Yeah, it was a chapel that belonged to Gerard Boudreau, Madeleine Boudreau's husband. He was the pastor that presided here, and since his death, it has just sort of languished.
I may have said this then at the end of the last session, but the very first thing William will be doing is basically walking around the outside looking for like a cemented in block where a grim might have been entombed in the base of this thing, because we just are not going through that again.
I do believe you had mentioned that.
Okay.
And yeah, so I will say
I don't want one of those jumping out at us.
I will say, given that you know what you're looking for, no roll is necessary. You do not see any strangely, replaced stone, any like newer mortar than there should be. There is no signs of a grim here.
And then if I remember correctly, there was one. I think at least G was very sus of the death of Madame Madra's husband. If I remember
That's
that right.
true.
Oh,
But
not me
when
personally, but I
but
thought
when
it
isn't
was.
Signy?
Sorry, Signy. And then there's a small graveyard out back.
There is a small graveyard out back.
That's what I
Correct.
remember. Okay,
Mm.
okay, I'm good.
What are the rest of you doing? As you see, William begins to pace the grounds outside, very focused at where the church meets the ground.
I think Signy will move around some furniture if that's possible. Maybe like just bring a table into the main room, at least set up a spot where we could gather evidence, kind of like a one of the a murder board, but like on a
Yeah.
flat table. So
Sure.
she's gonna organize that.
You head towards the back to where like a rectory would be. There's a small room back there, with what's essentially like a standing dresser for like elves and robes and of the kind. You see that there are like candlesticks and additional churchly accoutrement there, and there is a small desk with a like a candle on it. The candle's burnt down to a nub. There's a lone desk, like a sit-in desk, like small, and with a chair, and you can drag that out. The church still has pews. There is an altar atop like a rise of two stairs, so like it could be presided over. Anyone familiar with the Christian faith in this world, you would note there's a lack of like tabernacle. There's nothing. There's no sacraments. There's nothing of the kind here. It seems as though most things have been taken out of the church. There are a few scriptures. There are a few like hymnal books on the like scattered around. Yeah, that's what you guys see.
Okay. Yeah, Signy will loudly drag the table across the floor to the middle of the room.
Yeah, very Men in
th-
Black one. Just
yeah, exactly. And there's no electricity, correct?
no.
Okay, so she'll say we'll need to get some candles in here.
You see that scattered around. There are like in leaning on the wall, tipped over entirely. There are wrought iron standing like candelabras,
Oh,
like
sweet.
that would be in a church normally. And then during the day, the sun comes through the many stained glass windows and illuminates the place enough. It's just a little shadowy in here.
Perfect.
Mike, it's just the one room in the back and then the main chapel. Is that
Yep.
correct?
That's correct.
There's no basement or bell tower or anything of that
That
nature.
is correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Alec would have just investigated that and made sure that they understood like the full breadth of the layout, and then would probably have helped Signy.
Yeah.
So that
You
there's
can
less screaming
can
or squealing of furniture and stuff like that. So
yeah. You have like heeled shoes on, like heeled boots, and you can find like there's certain areas that like there's like a hollow tune as you step. Um, there's no obvious down, like to go downstairs, and there's no obvious like storm door kind of situation, which would be befitting because of all the high water level here. Your best guess is that there may be a crawl space underneath here that is just enough to elevate the church off the ground, so in case of flooding, but nothing of consequence, and it may be only 10 inches at most of space there.
So not space really to fit a body.
No, yeah, you'd be like low crawling to like go through there. It is more for getting the church off the ground so as not to absorb water when it floods, than it is to hide things for Signy to find.
I mean, if you try hard enough, you can do most anything.
If you're
Yeah, that's
small,
true.
yeah.
It with enough effort, you can fit a body in a lot of places. Is
Yeah.
what
You make the part small enough.
Yeah, if you make the part small enough.
So I think Cyrus will would have initially started to help Signy kind of walk towards the back, thinking we would set up. But he gets about halfway through the chapel, and then he starts just kind of shaking his head like he's trying to shake off a bug or something, and then just sits down in one of the pews and is just like kind of doing this. And he's just sitting there, like just kind of rocking a bit and basically just has his head down. So
Okay.
he's going to sit there for the moment.
Signy will glance at him and like wait a moment. She won't say anything, and then
He's
after a
not
moment,
looking.
yeah, she'll be like, Cyrus, what's wrong?
I'll be all right. Churches, there must be a graveyard nearby as well. Churches and graveyards are not good places for me. It's loud. So I just need a few moments to quiet things down. Just give me
Sure.
a little time.
Can she see if he's lying?
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? You can roll me. Hold on, I have to remember how to play this game. You can roll me. It's empathy based. It is observation. And Cyrus, you can roll me manipulation.
Okay. I don't need to because Cyrus thinks he's telling the truth. So
Great.
No successes.
Nope. As far as you can tell, he seems like he has a headache. You've seen him communicate with things before. You've never really been in close proximity to a cemetery long enough to have any consequential effect on him. But you know that he has an ability to commune with the dead.
Well, Martha is offended that any house of the Lord would be in such disarray. So she's looking for a broom or something to dust things with, and might have drifted into the back office and or any like storage spaces that she might be able to find
Yeah.
in search of cleaning supplies or anything else she might find.
You follow the same path that Signy took to that back office, and you note that there is a broom. It is very threadbare, but it is serviceable. It's the only thing you have really in this place left to use. The broom itself is over 10 years old, haven't been used in 10 years. But you can sure attempt to sweep up with it. If you're investigating or looking for things beyond the broom, which is very easy to find, you can roll me investigation.
All right. So I click here.
Okay. You walk in, you see the things that Signy has moved around. You see the same things, a closet full of robes and elves. You see like candle lighters, spare candelabras, broom, and just basic, very basic level of things as you grab this broom and begin to move around the church, cleaning up as you go. So Signy and Alec, you eventually get this loud table out in that space between where the pews end and the stairs begin to lead up to the was it postern? You kind of pull it out there. So on one side you're facing the door and the pews, and at your back would be where the pulpit would be. So you have this out there. You grabbed the one chair. William, you've made it back inside from doing your grim lap around, to which you see Alec and Signy are kind of sat over a table or standing over a table. Cyrus has his head in his hands, and Martha, in what may seem like the most un-Martha thing you've seen thus far, is just Cinderella sweeping up the whole church by herself. And Wyla just watches what's happening. She has no real, like, there was a church, but it wasn't like her job, and plus there was like a whole cult in her town. So the church was like a weird thing. She understands what you were doing, William, and she kind of like almost went with you but stopped, and she's not sure if she wants to console Cyrus or help Signy and Alex. She's just kind of standing off to the side, waiting for someone to like encourage her to be part of the group.
Oh, well, Martha would be directing. She'd be like, oh, go pick that up over there, like, pointing to like a broken, or tipped over chandelier or
Yeah.
a
So
candle
you see
or
her
whatever.
doing that, picking up
Yeah.
candelabras and things like that.
Yeah, and when William comes back into the church, he would probably like bang the door open and then taking in this whole scene. Be paused for a second and like, guess what? Good news, no Grim. And he'll see Cyrus looking distressed and or in pain, and go over to him and ask him if you're all right.
I'll be all right. I just graveyards and churches and the combination of the two is very loud. The spirit world tends to collect around those places, and it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to hear. I just need some time to block it all out.
He'll reach into his bag and pull out a bottle and offer it to him.
Oh, he'd 100% take that. my thanks.
He knows better not to give him the stronger stuff. He keeps that for himself.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Thank you, William. That should help.
And Mike, what day of the week is it?
Oh fuck. I don't keep the date that well. Is there a specific reason why you're asking?
Well, just because our plan is to go talk to people. So as long as it's not like Sunday, because things aren't open on Sundays typically back in the day, like it's a day of rest, isn't it?
It depends where you're going. It is, all I have is that it's November, late 19th century. Like a police station would be open, a cemetery would be open, an apothecary for someone who doesn't really give a shit about the Christian faith, that would be open.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's the Christian thing.
Yep.
Right.
So basically any non like Christian faith having stores would be open. And the French Quarter is kind of a mix of like, you have like Haitian immigrants, you have some like varying degrees of the faith are kept here. So certain places would be open.
Okay.
Yep.
So after everyone's William comes back and he sees to Cyrus and Signy and Alec are kind of finished getting their murder table organized, Signy will turn to everyone and be like, so where do we want to start? The commissioner, the apothecary? Do we want to divide and conquer?
Well, the library for me.
What are you looking for at the library again? Refresh my memory.
I believe if we were to look into the back catalog of newspapers, we might find a list of victims that align with stabbing wounds from perhaps silver knives and or the attacks of creatures through claws. And if so, I believe that having the names of those victims might help establish who the two sides of this confrontation may be.
Yes.
Martha snickers because Alex said establish.
And now we're snickering too.
And I think one thing that'd be important to get straight is our story. Are we going to tell people that we are private investigators? That might not go over so well with the police and talking with the commissioner, but...
What do you recommend, Signy?
Martha, in the middle of brooming, looks up and says, I could be a nun, and then continues to broom.
I'm sure you could. And you'd be an excellent nun at that, Martha. Perhaps we are just like Madeleine Boudreau. We are concerned citizens, perhaps hired by one of the victims to look into the deaths. Anonymously, of course.
Are we not saying that we are quote unquote employed by Madame Boudreau, since she was the one who brought us down here? Are we keeping her out of it?
I think so.
She's already
you-
been dismissed by the police, so that might not be a bad idea to keep her out of it for now.
Mm-hmm. She did mention about not asking the wrong questions. So it might be, if we're going to be delving deeper into this, to keep her out of it for her safety's sake.
Is it in her best interest for us to work out of this church? It was her husband's church.
She didn't seem to be worried about it.
All I'm saying is that if we want to distance ourselves from her, it would be easy for anyone to connect her to us if they connect us to this church.
Hmm. Yes, that's possible.
Martha is brooming the spider webs now, quite indelicately. And as she's hacking at them, she says, "We could be census workers."
You've already used that ruse, Martha.
Well, therefore we know how to do it well.
Do census workers in this country investigate murders?
Mm. Good point. I think a concerned nun is a much better idea.
We could be
Census
thrill
worker.
seekers. We are simply visiting the city. This is of interest to us. We have a interest in what is gruesome and horrific.
I think that makes it sound more like, what's the term? Busybodies? People who knows their way into things that don't concern them. She leans her elbows on the table and she's like, I think keeping it as simple as possible and as close to the truth as possible is the best way to go about it.
Perhaps we have William say that he is investigating a death of a military operative that we had in the city, that one of the deaths was someone associated with the military, and he has been set to investigate that death because of the importance
Do we know that
to
one of them,
intelligence.
or are we just spinning that? Because
If we say they were undercover, they don't, the
Okay.
constabulary won't know.
Well, my point is that the coroner would have identified bodies up until this point. So if all of them have been claimed by people, then that story might not work.
Well, that's why saying they were a
It's just-
spy.
Yeah.
They're keeping that, supposed to be keeping that a secret even to their friends and family.
True, but we also don't know any of their names. So when they go, who are you looking for? It's like, well, you tell me who I'm looking for.
We would have to know one of the names of the bodies. Yes, true.
Or physical descriptions.
I think just we are private investigators hired by a concerned citizen close to the murders. I feel like close to the murders is a good fib we can add in.
And I mean, it's mostly true.
Mm-hmm. Martha, are you gonna be getting a nun outfit? I don't know the term.
I believe it's called a habit.
That's the hat.
Yes. Yes.
It's just the hat.
Yes.
What is a nun outfit called? I can't remember. Anybody? Robes? It's not a habit.
And the habit is that hat with the boxy shape. It's almost like cardboard.
The whole thing is called a habit. But it's also correct what Matt said.
Wait, the whole uniform is called a habit?
The whole thing is called a habit. The headpiece is called a holy habit. And then there is like a veil, a wimple is like the cloth thing.
Okay.
And then there's like other names. Like there's a name for everything. The rope cord they wear on the waist. Everything has a name.
Yeah. So Martha, will you be needing a nun habit if you're going to be masquerading as one?
do believe I know where I could pick one up if we find that to be useful.
Well, and she kind of motions because she's still wearing that wig. You're very into the disguises this time. I'm all for it. I think it's a good angle.
Yes. Well, as I mentioned, my horrible stepmother is looking for me, and she,
Right, your fiance.
yes, yes, and my horrible fiance, very old, Mr. Snarfblow, awful.
Yes. Maybe we'll run into him.
Well, I do hope not. I do think a redheaded nut is pretty good idea. I mean, surely nobody would recognize me. And then everybody would assume that I'm very religious and helpful, and then I could get all sorts of questions answered.
Yes, everyone trusts a nun.
This is true.
I like this plan of yours, Martha.
I think it's an excellent plan. I agree. We should also try to figure out what happened to the men of letters. Maybe that would be in the library.
Well, I can't see. Well, Alex notes didn't tell us where the not the rectory, sorry, their chapter house was, but maybe something of a more subtle nature can be found in the shut up. What was I saying? So there might be something a little bit more of the subtle nature of the location of this chapter house in the library.
Well, again, I can look back into the records of newspapers. It was what, 100 years ago, Mike? It was 100 years ago? Can you remind me?
1702.
1702.
Oh yeah.
That
The Men of
was
Letters stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yep,
when
yeah.
they had that's when they brokered the thing, right? But then they disappeared, like, I think later that century.
Oh, end of the late 1700s.
Yeah, so 1702 was the Lycan Pact, but the end of the 1700s was when where any communication stopped.
Also, as a nun, the church keeps very good records, and they wouldn't mind if I peeked, maybe.
Records. I would love to go with you, Martha.
Do you want to be a nun too?
No. Can I not accompany you?
Sure. You could be my secular friend.
Every nun needs a secular friend.
Well, I sure hope you don't get discovered, because those rulers really hurt.
I do know that.
Fortunately, so do I.
Several people just rub their knuckles.
And William, you wanted to go talk to the coroner?
Correct. He's also the head of the constabulary too, as I understand it, right?
The coroner and the commissioner are two different people.
Oh, I thought it was the same person. Okay.
No.
Well then, yeah, definitely the coroner.
No, they are two different people.
Yeah, it was Commissioner Duval, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Commissioner
that was-
Henri Duval.
Okay.
Okay, so we have one person going to see. You're going to see the coroner. Okay, so we have one person going to the coroner. We have one person going to, or two people going to the nunnery.
I think it would be great if Alec and Martha would go to the library and the nunnery.
Okay, cool. Signy and Cyrus, where are you headed?
I think the original plan was for Signy and William to go together.
Okay, so you're headed to the coroner, so that leaves Cyrus. Where are you headed?
Wherever would be the most useful. I can also spend some time walking through the city, taking an inventory of the different sigils that have been put up. and maybe backtrack to the apothecary and ask some questions there. Or
Do
I can wait for one of you to join me if you
Do
want to.
visit St. Louis Cemetery, Cyrus, if that's what you intend to do, because we know there is a symbol engraved there.
Okay.
Okay.
Wyla, where will Wyla go? She should stay here.
No, she
She
should
can
go
keep
with Cyrus.
cleaning.
Cyrus
She
shouldn't.
keeps cleaning.
Cyrus shouldn't be
Martha
alone.
just shoves the brunt, shoves the broom in her hand.
I can take Wyla with me.
Have you been cleaning the entire time, Martha?
I have been cleaning the entire time.
Roll me investigation, please.
Okay.
You discover it's cleaner, but only slightly.
It's true, it is slightly cleaner. Wow, you guys' rolls are on fire today.
Jeez.
Cool.
Jesus.
Actually, you know what? I will give you a bonus dice for Wyla assisting. Go ahead and give me just roll a d6.
Oh, when did I do that? Oh, D6. That was not apparently how I do that. How do I do that again? Sorry.
On the bottom left corner of the screen, there should be a button that says d6, I think. If not, just roll like /R d6.
/RD6.
Space.
Yeah, the
D6.
bottom left corner.
Unrecognized.
Space
Command.
D6.
41. It's clearly not the right thing. /space R.
Yeah.
Say that again.
/R space d6.
Okay.
Okay. No successes for you. Cool. Okay, you don't see anything. It is cleaner. It is markedly cleaner. So we have two people going to the library and the nunnery. We have one person headed to the cemetery / apothecary, and we have two people headed to the coroner. Cool.
I think I was
you-
gonna take Wyla with me. So
Okay, great. Usually I decide, but I'm gonna throw it to you guys. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Great.
Corner. Let's get the dead bodies out of the way.
To the coroner. Yeah, okay, cool. So you and Signy, you all exit, and we see that like dispersal scene as you all exit out of this place. With no true direction, William and Signy, you sort of wander a bit until you kind of get your bearings and figure out where exactly the corner would be in relation to where you are. Signy, I know you did a little bit of a walkabout the day before trying to get
No.
some bearings, but
Alec did.
oh, sorry, Alec did.
Yeah.
Does not help you at all then, Signy.
No, sorry.
So the two of you
Does
sort
my
of-
bath help me?
it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't. I'll
it does, just not in the way that you want. That's all.
yeah, you get a +1 on all inter-party interactions
Sweet.
for
Okay, this is a touristy city, correct?
Mhm.
Is there any place that we can find to see we can find a map?
No need. I wasn't gonna harass you about the location.
Oh,
You just
okay.
wander around until you find it.
I was gonna say, I mean, if there's just like a constable standing on the side,
Yeah,
of the street,
yeah.
just say,
There's
where's the
like
coroner's office?
yeah, there's like police on the street. There's a police presence here. Collectively, you guys find it. It does take a little bit longer, a little bit of wandering around before you're directed in there. And this is a it's it's funny because it's an office building that sort of goes down into like a basement almost. So it's actually higher up in the city on a hill. This goes down into a basement. There's actually an office building above it, unrelated to the police entirely. And you guys descend into this very like it's not exactly a basement, but it doesn't have any life of a normal building. It's very cold, literally, both literally and figuratively. It is cold. Everything is cement walls and floor, or stone walls and floor. As you make your way in here, your footsteps like sort of echo off of the walls and floor as you make your way in. And there's a set of double doors with a flickering yellow tinged light light coming from inside. The glass on the doors is glossed over, so you can't see in other than like the yellowing light that is flickering in here. And you'll know, William, these are swinging doors, like a hospital would have, or a medical station might have. But this place is unguarded. Turns out not many people come down here and visit corpses in various degree of assembly for burial. So there's no one stopping you from going in, and there's no one to greet you once you enter. So the only thing between you and whatever is beyond the doors is the doors themselves. Do you guys just push your way in?
Is there a records, something that looks like a record office down here? Because I mean, we could just sit there and open up.
Yeah, if
I
there
forget the name of
were
the things where the bodies are stored, but
oh yeah, like
that would probably take a while.
If there is, it must be on the other side of this door. There's about like a, I don't know, 15 by 10-foot room here between the stairs and this door. It looks like it would be like a reception area. There's a couple of like chairs there, but that there's no like desk or anything like that. So it could be like a waiting room for people waiting to like, check
So
in.
we just knock on the door and walk in.
Okay.
Like we own the place.
Great. The two of you knock on the door and quickly swing it open. You see a series of slabs set open with icebox refrigerators in the walls. And you see at the third table in, you see a hunched over figure leaning over a table, white coat, very similar setting as you would be like in a collegiate setting, William. This is the kind of thing you would see. Hunched over, you can see that sticking out on either side of them is the torso and legs of a cadaver. They are leaned over this thing, and you can see like their elbows are up so as to not get blood on themselves, and they seem to be working. Their frame is rather slight, and you see hair is sort of tied back into a messy bun on the back of this person's head. They don't respond as you enter, and you see, you hear a loud click and a whir as they click on something and something begins to spin. And then, William, you hear an experimental bone saw start to buzz up and crack into what you assume to be ribs. So any sound you would make towards this person, they cannot hear at this moment, giving you free reign to sort of look around here until they notice you.
Yeah, I would take the area in until we try and make a very loud throat clearing noise or something to get their attention.
Okay.
Or knock on one of the metal tables.
There are a number. There is 6. There are 6 of these wall-mounted like refrigerator tubes for bodies. 3 tables. She's operating on the second table, and you can see there is a half wall with a glass other half that is like an office. You assume either her office or records. There's no one in there besides this woman working, and you can see there is another small flickering yellowed light on the desk. You can see there is a box of whatever, you're not sure what that is, and a cabinet in this room, which has a door on it.
Well, we probably shouldn't just go into their records office without making them aware.
Yeah, Signy raises her eyebrow at William, and then she'll knock loudly on one of the metal tables.
You bang on this table, and it like echoes, it reverberates around the room, and you hear the whirring sort of stop, and she turns around towards you, and you see a woman, arguably in her mid-40s. She has very sharp, almost like avian sort of qualities. She has 2 small beady eyes, a long sort of crooked hooked nose. Her hair is tied back in a bun. You can see there was an attempt at one point this morning. Probably it was very professional and has since sort of come into disarray. And she has a set of goggles on her face. And you can see that she has gloves up to her mid-forearm that are now quite bloody. And she turns around towards you, regards the 2 of you. You see her adjust the goggles up, kind of blood on her forehead a little bit as she does so. And she looks at you and says, "Yes?"
Hello, Doctor. I am Dr. Whalen. This is my associate, Signe. Shit, I'm forgetting her last
Welker.
name. Welker,
Welker,
sorry.
yeah.
um, we are looking for, well, to put it bluntly, corpses that have been brought in with specific wounds. We've been investigating particular incidents around the town, and we're hoping we could get access to your records, and if there happen to still be any of the victims here, the bodies themselves, and any notes that you may have done for their autopsy.
Are you with the Observer?
The who now?
The
The
Crescent
Observer.
Observer. No, we are not. We have been privately hired by a concerned citizen who's been tied to one of the murders. Or sorry, that has been tied to one of the victims, not the murders.
And you just waltzed into my workspace and
She looks at the door. It wasn't locked.
And we did knock
Yes.
twice, in fact.
You seem
I-
to be very busy, which we
yeah, everyone keeps dying. It's the busiest time of the year, apparently.
really. That's interesting.
Is it? There's a
lot of-
string of murders. It's been well publicized.
Yes, and that is like Dr. Willem said, this is why we're here, and we're hoping we could assist with that.
Do you have any expertise performing autopsies?
Well, as a matter of fact, yes, as well as general surgeries. I was doctor for some time now, also with the Army of the Potomac from it was 62 to 65.
Oh. Well, in that case, take a look at this. And she sort of sidesteps and like Vanna whites you towards a corpse.
And
Uh,
Signy says, and I'm not squeamish, and she walks forward.
You're so lucky you said
So
that.
he's probably less squeamish than I am.
You're so lucky you said that. I was gonna
Fair.
make you roll for squeamish.
Hey, look,
Yeah,
after what we saw in Grindstone, I'm not squeamish anymore.
I mean, this is not much different than what you saw in Grindstone. The two of you walk up, and I don't know if you've ever seen an autopsy, but the skin is essentially pulled down over this. Let me see here. Actually, this
Sliced, pinned back, pinned up to the sides.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah, like a frog. Let me see here.
And just because she said she's not squeamish doesn't mean you don't have to make a roll for it.
That's true.
I've seen Mortuary Assistant.
That's true. Yeah, here we go. This man, the stomach is cut in that Y shape, flaps are pulled out, stomach is pulled down, and you can see that she has just finished severing the ribs on both sides of the sternum, and the sternum is in a little metal bowl off to the side. She immediately grabs this very strange device that looks like a series of gears with like two like articulating arms.
Ooh, a
and
rib
she, like,
spreader.
she jams it into the ribs and begins just cranking this thing, and you hear it like click 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 click, crunch 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 as it begins to pull the ribs apart. And she says, "This is the latest of a string of victims. Take a look. What do you see here?"
Oh, well, that's fortuitous. He'll
roll
pull out
me-
his head mirror and get a hemostat out and start poking around
Hell
and pulling
yeah.
stuff back. And then
Roll
I
me
guess I'll roll a
medicine. Roll me medicine with whatever medicine related bonuses you have.
Do I
Yeah,
have
when
any
she jams
medicine?
that rib
Oh, I do have
splitter in
medicine
place,
bonus. Look at that.
Signy's just like,
Yeah. You saw a corpse that was savaged. Now
Yeah.
you're watching someone dismantle a body.
Yeah.
It's a little
It's
bit
like, click,
different.
click, 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 click.
It's
Yeah.
a lot louder, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I think it'll fit into the church now.
God, jeez.
After the church, yeah.
Here's hoping we roll better than everyone else so far today.
Let's go.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Woo!
2 successes. Cool. So you begin to poke around here. The first thing you notice, which this did not require a roll, you notice the cause of death. And that is the fact that this man is missing at least a quarter, if not more, of their jugular and esophagus. It appears to be removed with a like, if you're coming at this from like a scientific perspective, perhaps a serrated edge, like maybe the kind you'd use to like gut fish. It's pretty
So
gnarly
it's
from left to
ragged tear. Is
very
basically
ragged
not clean
tear.
cut.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
100%. Not
throat
a
ripped
clean cut
out
at
by
all.
animal. Got it.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, did you
very
say
mu-
what her name was? The doctor?
She did not introduce herself to you. She instead gave you attitude. But as you are very close to her and just rolled 2 successes, she does have a name stitched on, and it is Dr. Fontenot, which I'll put in chat for you. Dr. Fontenot is her name. And you rummage around in here. You notice that. You also notice that the rib spreader was perhaps overkill. In fact, even the bone saw was perhaps overkill, as a large chunk of the left side of the rib cage has been destroyed. It has been like crushed to almost pulp. It's unattached itself. And you see that there is viscera and internal damage to the left lung, a little bit to like the diaphragm muscles are torn, and you see that there is like fluid leakage in there. And as you poke around, you realize why all of these things are the way they are. There's an organ missing. It is the heart.
So the damage on the left side, if he pulls back, like one of the pins actually looks at the tissue that was covering the rib cage, is it blunt force impact, or is there literally a hole there that was smashed through and something
It is a hole.
reached in and okay, so something reached in and pulled the heart out.
That is correct.
Okay.
It looks now that you realize and sort of undo the pins, like you like unclip the hemostat and like let it fold back over. You see that the same sort of like serration, that same sort of rough tear is present in the chest, that chest wound. So she looks to you with all the curiosity of like it's actually a position you haven't been in quite a while. She looks at you as if she were the professor and you were the student, and like, look at this cadaver. What do you think? Back when you were in like military school. So you're in that sort of like teacher student paradigm. As she knows what to expect, and she looks to you like, Doctor, do you concur?
Concur with what? Because I don't know what her opinion is, but
Yes.
He'll definitely express what he's seeing. Well, this is obviously. Oh, hang on. Well, this definitely looks almost like an animal attack, but with such force, obviously. I mean, I don't know of an animal that can crush through someone's sternum and rib cage and rip out a heart, which is indeed what looks like happened here.
Signy raises an eyebrow. The heart.
Yes, it's strange. You would think that an animal attack, they would savage the whole body, and they would feast on the innards as a whole.
Yes, not too many animals just kill for the sake of killing. It's always...
Yet, if this was a person, then he'll gesture at the neck. This, I mean, unless someone had phenomenal strength and just grabbed on the throat and ripped it off their bare hands, which doesn't seem likely, this is definitely indicative of an animal attack. And when he's saying animal attack, his voice is going to crack a little bit because of what's going through his brain. He's basically now torn. He's trying to fight the panic down because of what he saw and witnessed back in that medical tent in the Civil War versus what he's looking at now. And at the moment, his professional side is overruling his, fuck, I want to run away and hide in
Yeah.
a bottle somewhere.
That fight or flight response.
Yeah. So, and hopefully that's, I'm sure that's probably apparent to Signy because she's used to William, but hopefully that doesn't come across to the other doctor.
She looks to you, and there's very like analytical face, and she says, "Yes, this is the sixth corpse of this kind."
All with the same wounds, I should say.
Similar enough wounds. This one here, and she like motions towards the chest cavity, has occurred on either side, as well as back and front. There seems to be the only consistency seems to be the cause of death, an animal attack, the brute force, and the removal of the heart.
All 6 had the heart.
That is correct. Strange, isn't it?
Yeah, and Signy will walk around the table, so
Say the least of it, yes.
So Signy will be on the opposite side of the table from the 2 doctors, just so she can look at both of them at the same time. Okay, so I'm not a medical doctor. Is it possible that someone, a human, used implements to make it look like an animal attack? Like a type of knife, let's say.
Sure. And she just quietly like looks at you like she was expecting more out of this conversation. Because yes, it is possible.
William will get really close and start looking at the basically almost the ragged serrated cuts in the neck, and I don't know if my role would tell me if I could discern between, you know, something human and definitely animal. Like, are there additional puncture wounds around it where teeth would have gone in, like bite, then grab, tear, or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'll say with that 2 success there, because you're not really getting any new information.
Right.
If so, the throat looks like one clean attack. So there's no like if a dog bites you and then bites harder on the spot, there's like dappling of like where like the bruises would be of that first bite, right?
Right.
This is one chomp. So any of that serrated part, if it were teeth and not a knife, it was one clean bite. Now, someone like William, who is entertaining the thought of this being, you know, perhaps a creature of the were variety, yeah, this tracks. This is what you would expect to see with a wolf attack, right? It also follows suit with like the removal of organs. That doesn't seem like a regular wolf. And it seems a little much for a person. Not that it's out of the realm of possibility for a person to do, but for a normal person, for the person that William used to be, you can see everyone sort of bending over backwards to the possibility that, like, yeah, this is an animal attack for sure. Strange that they keep removing the heart. Don't know why wolves would do that, or maybe it's like some sort of rabid weasel, or I don't know, something from one of the islands. But everyone seems to be like forcing this square peg into a round hole because it's so inconceivable that it could be anything other than an animal or some lunatic with a very strange blade carving people up.
Right.
Is the heart removal common knowledge?
Are you asking me or are you asking Dr. Fonno?
I'm gonna ask you first, just because it wasn't part of the information given to us from Madeline.
That is correct. This is not part of the information given to you from Madeline.
Yeah, so then Signy will go, how many people know about the heart removal? Is it common knowledge?
It hasn't been posted. It hasn't been publicly announced by the commissioner.
Okay. Interesting.
In the 6 bodies that you have investigated, and he's asking this of the doctor, aside from these very obvious wounds, have you noticed anything else out of the ordinary? Like, this is going to sound weird, but there are some really messed up people in the world, and a lot more down here, I understand. There aren't any like weird, like the bodies weren't mutilated beyond this, like somebody didn't carve stuff into it or symbols, symbology, anything like that. Deface or mark up the body in any way other than what
Oh,
we
you mean
obviously see
in the
here.
last month or so?
Well, sure. I mean, for these specific
Specific.
murders with these specific wounds, heart removal, throat ripped out.
Oh no, these are in my professional opinion sufficiently savaged. There has been no other indication of temperament with these, other than natural elements, perhaps found in an alleyway, gutter, depending on where they were discovered.
Okay, so that thought brings my second question then. Have there been other bodies brought in this time period with some, to put it lightly, witchy weird shit carved into them?
It's funny you should ask. If I were paid per the corpse, I could retire. She walks over, unlatches one of the cool cases, and you see this mist come out of it of like immediate condensation. And she opens this and pulls out this tray on little wheels, pulls out this tray, and you see a woman that is there, and she, for all intensive purposes, looks vastly more normal than the one you are seeing now. Autopsied as well, she has already been sewn back together. You do see that there is a stab wound. And roll me another medicine, William.
Better than a 0.
Great. So right off the bat, you notice that over her right shoulder, like right below the clavicle, there is what on first glance looks to be a stab wound, but is in fact a sharp carving. It looks like the letter C almost. You do also see more towards like the center of the chest is a stab wound, and with that one success, you can see that the stab wound, first of all, it's not in the line of where the autopsy would be; it's slightly off to the side. It is indicative of a blade that is edged on both sides, so it's kind of like semi-ovular, as opposed to straight on one side. It cut on both sides. But it was one clean cut.
If Signy isn't over here, he's going to wave her over to have a look at this, because frankly, Signy knows the witchy bullshit better than
Yeah, there is something
than William does.
There is something I want to check on the ripped part body as well.
Mhm.
But sorry, just to clarify, what is the C shape that you mentioned?
I don't know.
But you said
A C shape.
Okay, I'll look over and look at it. Like, what is it? Like, is it a birthmark? Is it a tattoo?
Oh no, it's carved. It's a
Oh, okay, like
sliced into
like a wound that looks like a wound.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Wound.
Sorry, I thought you meant beyond that.
No, you were describing the stab wound, and then you started talking about a C shape. I'm like, wait a minute, the stab wound is the C shape?
Oh no,
or-
yeah, they're two
Okay.
different things.
Okay, on the clavicle.
Yeah, on the right side below the clavicle, there is a C-shaped
Okay.
cut.
Okay. Yeah, so Signy will look at that. And can I to Williams, like, can we tell if this was done before or after the deaths?
That's a good question. I suppose
You could
if there was
with a
any
one
bruising
success.
Yeah.
With one success, you know it was done right around the same time.
Okay. Can I roll? She's gonna take note. She's gonna take a note in her notebook about it. Can I roll to see if I can figure out any kind of supernatural meaning about that?
About the C-shape or the
Yeah.
stab wound?
The C shape.
I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
Unless you can tell me why, you don't have any context for this other than a strange C-shaped carve.
Okay. So for this body and the original body on the table that's currently being autopsied, Signy is going to do a full-on like look over the skin, and that's what she's going to look for. She's going to look for not like carvings, but she's looking for like painted sigils or like small tattoos or anything like that.
On the body on the slab, there are no indications of this. There's nothing. Actually, roll me investigation. Yeah.
Oh, conditions. 2 successes.
Great. And this is the slab body or the fridge body?
I'm at the fridge body right now, so I'll look at fridge body first.
Okay. This is, as I said before, this is a woman. And you can see that under her fingernails, as you sort of examine her, you sort of lift up her hand, and you can see that there is some sort of grime underneath the tips of her fingers, like underneath her fingernails. You scrape some of this off. It is not obviously, without at like an eye glance, you can't really tell that this is not like skin cells of like a defensive grabbing somebody. But you can see this seems to be dirt particles. Like you would find like digging in soil or greenhouse. These are the same kind of like dirty fingernails you would see like a farmer have, or someone that works with earth. Someone that tills the ground. Yeah, that's what you see on her. That doesn't seem to have been relevant to the coroner, or maybe it was. You haven't read the coroner's report, but there are no markings, no tattoos, nothing of the kind. You do see bruising on the knees. That seems to be irrelevant to the death. It just seems to be a constant sort of like this person's on their knees often, which kind of tracks with the dirty fingernails if they are working with earth. And you see that their hands are calloused, as if they work. They do some sort of semi-manual labor. That is what you see on this person.
One question: do we get her name? Can we get her name?
Do you ask? You ask the
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah.
Her name is Beatrice Dupont.
Beatrice Dupont. Okay, and then she will do the same thing on the current autopsy gentleman.
Go ahead and roll me investigation.
I can do that. 2 successes.
Great. I assume you ask. This name is his guy's name is Thomas Lafitte. You see that he has almost the polar opposite. He has very demure hands. Like he hasn't seen an honest day's work in quite a bit of time. You see that he has there are like indented marks on his fingers between the second and third knuckle, indicative of someone who often wears rings. You also see on his face the same sort of indentations on either side of the bridge of his nose, indicative of somebody who wears glasses. You can also see those same markings on the back of the top and back of the ears, meaning that he like religiously wore glasses. He is a little bit paunchier around the middle. Your best guess is a sedentary lifestyle. And you do see that he has cracked and calloused soles of his feet. Your best guess is that he, despite not having a physical job, he did walk around a lot. Other than that, there's no markings on the body. There's nothing, no tattoos, no symbols.
Okay. Like looking for the tattoos specifically, like especially for the woman. Oh, sorry, especially for this gentleman, if he was like a witch. I'm just trying to think if there's any kind of like identifying, like tattoo saying like, oh, we all belong to the same coven type shit. So there's nothing like that.
There's nothing like that.
Okay, just checking. And then last question for the doctor, Dr. Fontenot. Are there belongings still here?
The belongings of this man are still here. Everyone else has been shipped off to the commissioner and his department. But I can't allow you to go through the man things. That is a crime.
Has anybody tried to claim any of these bodies, especially the ones sans their heart? Family members?
We keep them
random
here
people?
for not as of yet. We keep them here for a number of days, depending on the storage capacity, which has not been a problem until recently. Otherwise, they are removed for burial. And
If
no one
they're
has
not-
claimed any of
I
them.
was gonna say, if they're not claimed, they go to just a communal burial ground.
That is correct.
Mhm.
Do you happen to know where that is or where they're taken?
Yes, any of the there are several communal the San Luis #1, the San Luis #2. There are they scatter the city. You'll note them, they're off the street, they are raised. Most of them are communal, or at least have a communal space for them. The ones that are buried, at least. If you see
out of
crypt-
character, I'm just wondering, like, have bodies dug themselves out? Are they coming back to life, or are people going and digging them back up after they're buried and things like that? So
you would be
that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, you would absolutely think you would have heard of corpses coming back to life. If somebody is absconding with a body from a grave in the dead of night, they seem to be doing a good job of covering it up, either literally or figuratively, so that no one has seemed to know.
All right, covering all our bases.
And I'm so sorry, Dr. Fontenot. I did say that was my last question, but I lied. Mr. Lafitte, he said he was victim number 6. What number is she? Do you recall?
5.
And we did hear there were 7 deaths. Have you had a chance to investigate the 7th one yet?
I miscounted. So he would be number 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
But to be fair, though, there were 6 victims, corpses, whatever, that have come through that have had similar wounds to the guy on the table, which is
Yes.
throat ripped out, heart. But Beatrice is not in that category. She's a completely
I'm
different
sorry.
death, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes. Yep. She looks to you and says, "Well, if there's nothing else other than professional curiosity here, I need to return to my business here.
Have you looked through the belongings of Mr. Lafitte?
It's not my job."
Okay.
That falls on whoever Duval sends here. He's the one investigating. I simply write what I see, give my opinion on it, and turn it in.
Maybe we should make a visit to the commissioner after this.
Mhm.
Thank you, doctor, for giving us your time. If there's anything I can do for you in the future, you please let us know. If we happen to cross paths again.
Of course. And if there's anything that I can do for you, Mr. I'm sorry, it was
Whalen, Dr. Whalen.
Dr. Whalen. Emily. And she gives you her first name.
Did you say Emily?
Emily.
Emily with an A. Okay.
Like the movie. What is it? Amelie? That one. That's the spelling.
Amelie.
Yeah. You know, that weird French movie.
After I write Emily in my notes.
Don't worry.
No, I heard Emily first, but there was that kind of I was like, oh, wait.
I'll spell it for you, and you'll be even more mad about how I spelt it.
Oh, it's Amelie.
Yeah.
AMI. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, you know, like the movie Amelie.
Yeah.
Yes. So we cut from that. Who would like to go next? We have the library or the graveyard, or the cemetery rather.
You guys can go.
Cyrus, go next.
Oh,
Yeah,
either
you
way.
both said the other person.
I was gonna say get thee to a nunnery, but
Yeah.
it's fine. Sure, I can go. So.
Okay. So you walk, it's very easy to find cemeteries here in the city. You walk over. In fact, you've been here before, so you don't even have to worry about it as much. You can find the St. Louis #1 cemetery. Yeah, you head over this way with Wyla. Is there any conversation with Wyla on the way?
I think no, well, let me think about that. I think Cyrus is just checking, you know, how are you doing with all this? It's a lot to take in.
I huh. I don't disagree with you. However, as strange as it is to say out loud, I did come from a town that ran a cult, which I'm now beginning to fully come to grips with. So it is strange given the context of what I see other people's lives to be, and what I was told the outside world would be like. However, given that we worshipped a giant cat bear creature, it seems almost par for the course, Mr. Kincaid.
Sadly, there are cults everywhere.
I'd like to not believe you.
As
But
would I.
the strange things I saw in Grindstone and the strange things I saw in Fisher Isle and now I just assume the world outside is far weirder than I had been led on.
I walked a very similar journey when I was your age as well. Discovering all of the both terrible and wondrous things that were out there in the world that I never would have imagined when just growing up in a home that I thought was normal. So like I said, it's a lot to take in, and a little bit worldview shaking, but you'll find even this becomes more normal the more you see it.
Something about that isn't as comforting as I think you thought it would be.
Not meant to be comforting.
Understood.
But you have friends. You have us. Which was more than I had for a while. So hopefully you have some help and you have some people to support you while you are figuring it all out.
I will just assume that it will be easier over time.
I hope so too.
If I may ask, sir, what are you hoping to find in the cemetery?
Largely, I'm just trying to get a feel for what type of symbols people have been putting up around town as part of protection. I want to see if there's anything, if it's just general fear, or if there are very specific protection symbols around either werewolves or witches or witchcraft or magic or anything else in particular. I want to make sure that we have a good handle on everything that we are speculating that we're dealing with. In this case, it's a big city. There's lots going on. I don't want to be surprised.
She sighs heavily. And there's a world weariness that this like 15, 16-year-old shouldn't have. And she just looks to you with like almost like a parental disapproving look, honed over years of receiving them from her mother. And she just looks to you and says, Mr. Kincaid, the things you say, if in the company of anyone else, they would have you locked up.
You're not the first person to tell me that, and I know for sure you won't be the last.
She sighs, and like she sighs through a smirk. And you guys continue on to the St. Louis Cemetery, number 1. It is obviously raised up off of the sidewalk. There are wrought iron bars kind of wrapping around this place. There's a big wrought iron gate. It's a public cemetery. You see, for you, this is you've seen this before. But there are above ground burial sites. There are what the heck is that word, like the big stone edifices, crypts, that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, there are crypts, there are vaults, there are all kinds of large above ground, and you see that there are like flowers, but also offerings. There's like communal, like you see like a vase with like flowers, but you also see like a blanket, almost like a picnic blanket, was sort of laid over one of them with things that that person must have liked, or things that are seemingly relevant to this person. And that seems to be commonplace as people move around through this area and leave what almost looks like offerings to the dead. More so than just your typical like honorary flower or something like that. And certain places have more than others, perhaps indicating to a level of, you know, notoriety, or perhaps a largeness of family. You're not entirely sure. But as you make your way through this fairly grand cemetery, what are you looking for specifically, so I can figure out what you roll for it?
So Madame Madro described a number of symbols that have been put up on different buildings throughout the city. And so I'm looking for anything that looks kind of freshly painted in that style. So not only in the cemetery, but on the way there as well. I'm
Sure.
just trying to get a feel for, because she had written some symbols and they weren't accurate. I'm just trying to get an accurate read on what they look like. Like if I can find any, and if I do, what they look like.
Great. Yeah, go ahead and roll me. Roll me investigation. I'll give you a bonus for Wyla.
Okay. And what's the bonus? 1?
Oh yeah, 1. Sorry.
Not my best, but we'll see. No successes. Other than William, the rolling continues.
The rolls continue. William and Signy were killing it. So you look around, you don't notice any on the buildings. However, you were directed to this place, so you find the symbol in the cemetery. This was like a roll to see if there were more on the way, essentially. You see these symbols. I need another roll from you. This one is just going to be you. This is going to be a learning roll, but I will allow you to argue any sort of bonuses that may be applicable to the arcane or towards that kind of thing. If you have any implements that may be useful, or knowledge you think might be useful.
So in this is interpreting the one symbol?
There's several symbols.
There are several symbols. Okay. Well, I mean, Cyrus's background is something where, I mean, he has a bunch of tattoos that are arcane protection symbols. I mean, literally. So these are things that he has studied from, and it is a mix of different cultures. Like he's not one to, you know, say there's only one way to do this. So some are Native American, some are more Celtic, you know, it's just kind of different combinations. So he would have some familiarity with different symbols in that particular style, not necessarily all arcane symbols, but ones particularly that are about both protection and kind of scrying and observation. Those are mainly what he has tattooed himself with to protect himself, or at least what
Okay.
he thinks is protecting.
I will give you a bonus of 1.
Okay, let's try that. And that is learning. Also not my best. 0 again. I have no
Hell
idea what I'm
yeah.
looking at. Well, I'm rolling all 3s.
Killing it.
4s.
Absolutely killing it.
This is very on par for Cyrus. Nice job.
Yeah, you find the symbols in question, and you know enough to like take them down. Like you have a little notebook, you take these symbols down. They are actually etched into the stone at the base of so like imagine like a cement wall with a wrought iron's coming out of, and then there's like a base block which has a name, I can't think of what it is, where the wrought iron kind of gate goes to. On the left and right base block of the wrought iron gate, these symbols are carved into them.
Yeah, so
sort
Cyrus
of like
is,
go ahead.
Yeah, Cyrus is just frowning at this point. He's taking notes and just kind of telling Wyla, it's important to be as accurate as possible so we can match. Even the most minor of changes on these symbols might change their effect, render them useless. But in the meantime, super disappointed that like I would think on the way there he was also saying, now keep an eye out for different arcane symbols. This is what we're looking for. We had that conversation, and then can't find any, and he just like,
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. So you absolutely do. It is a bit of a struggle, right? Where you attempt, you find these things, but they are outside of your general scope of knowledge. They're not the belief systems you've encountered, or at least have ascribed to. These do not correlate. This must be something else, that you're not entirely sure what it is. But they do seem to mark this place. Is there anything else you're doing here? You can see the grave. Sorry, the cemetery. The cemetery from the outside. Are you walking through the cemetery? Are you communing?
I think so Cyrus is gonna walk in and see if there's a caretaker or a gravedigger. If anyone, it looks like they're working, is there?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I'll say yeah. You see, yeah, you see two people. One is a weathered old man who looks like he was very in shape at one point, and sort of walks with a little bit of a hunch, probably owing to shoveling his whole life away. And you see an equally brawny but younger, probably in his early 20s, late teens, walking with him. And you can see that that's obviously the mentor-mentee situation, and he's doing the most of the digging if there were any, but they are taking essentially a tour of the grounds.
Okay. So I think Cyrus kind of turns to Weil and says, let's see if we can let's see what we can learn here. And he'll approach the gravediggers.
They at first they don't take any, they don't take anything from you approaching. People come and go here all the time, but as it becomes more and more apparent that you're walking directly to them, you see the young boy sort of tap the older man on the shoulder and point your way. The old man looks to you, and there's sort of like he straightens with a little bit of effort, as if someone's like pushing the small of his back to lift his head up, and he looks to you and says, are you looking for a specific site here?
Possibly, sir. I am Cyrus Kincaid. This is my ward, Wyla. And we are in search of some information that we thought perhaps you could help us with. So we've heard of some relatively scary sounding deaths around the city, and we're investigating on behalf of one of the families. And I was wondering if you were aware if there were um uh any any of the folks that were associated with the kind of highly publicized deaths in the city that were buried recently here. I would think that perhaps you may have known within the last couple of weeks. I know you get deaths every day, but ones that were a little more highly publicized might be something that you are aware of.
You're referring to the string of murders.
I am.
I am aware of the murders. There are a growing number, several here, but there are a growing number of unclaimed bodies, victims that have been buried throughout the city. Anytime there is space to be had, from what I understand, I don't know how many. The 3 here. But anytime one of these victims goes unclaimed for long enough time, we end up tasked with the unfortunate duty of burying them.
If it wouldn't be too much trouble and take too much time away from your day, would it be possible for you to show us where the 3 individuals are buried? I would make it worth your time.
Yes, of course. Gabe, this way. And you see him refer to the younger boy, and he points, and the 2 of them, he there's like a little bit of an assistance as they turn a corner, and he says, "Please follow me," and you begin walking through, varying degrees of like above ground and opulent, like these crypts. And you get towards a high point of the cemetery, and you see that there's like like almost like a mound, like a cairn, almost, where they are still technically above ground, but it's mostly just like a dirt mound above the ground that they're buried in. Nothing like a large stone like plinth for them to be buried in. And he points to them, of which you see that there is a like a placard with a date on them, like a stone chiseled in with the date, and that is just the presumed date of death.
Okay. Is it a date and a name, or just a date?
Just the date.
Thank you, sir. Are you aware of the names of any of these individuals, or did they come in unnamed?
Um,
Or would
He's-
they be etched somewhere?
These have been, as far as I understand it, they are unclaimed. We were given the date, the date of death, and that is all we have for them. The commissioner has not released names of the victims. If they're, if they are known, then he would have them.
Understand. Thank you so much.
Of
And then
course.
he kind of Cyrus will note just kind of briefly whatever the location and the date, just so he could find this again if he needed to.
Mhm.
I also, walking in earlier, I noticed a kind of an odd symbol sketched on one of the grave sites, and he will show him the picture that he sketched of it. Have you seen this symbol or something like it on other gravestones recently?
There are symbols scattered throughout the cemeteries. There are some that have traditional views from the islands. There are some that have taken to some of the native symbols. What people have, there are even crests. These specifically, I don't recall seeing them, but that is to say that there could be more of them in the cemetery here.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate your help. And your your co-workers' help here. And then he will take out, I don't know, some amount of money that would be appropriate.
He puts his hand up and waves away. Said, "No, it's my job to direct people where they're. It's easy to get lost in here. I'm glad I could help.
Excellent. Thank you so much, sir. Have a good day. So
You as well.
And just for my parts, I appreciate the service that you do for all those that are grieving with lost ones. So thank you, sir.
Much appreciated, and I enjoy your time."
Okay, and then I guess given that, we'll kind of shuffle Wyla away and then just kind of lean in and ominously say, we may be coming back here later to have a couple other conversations. as I fold up the paper and put it away. So.
Perfect. We'll transition from that ominous situation over to Alec and Martha, who I believe are headed to the library. So we will cut as Alec and Martha approach the library. You see a rather large, grandiose library. There's about 10 stairs from the street to the actual library proper. Big, like, oaken painted double doors as you get in there. And we'll start our scene at the bottom of the staircase, just in case there's any commentary between the two of you as you approach the stairs.
Well, Martha, you ready?
Do you think that we should get my nun habit before or after the library?
Do you think anyone might recognize you in your current disguise when we are in the library? Because I
She
believe
kind of adjusts her red wig and she has her black morning gown on with her veil. Well, as a matter of fact, I think you're right. I think this disguise will work quite perfectly. I do think, however, and Martha's thinking, you can see that there's wheels turning as she realizes that she's at a library and she might not have perhaps wanted to volunteer for this mission in front of Alec. I think that given my state of mourning that clearly I'm in, I should be very quiet in the library and perhaps not say very much, even if I do have something to say after reading the texts.
very well. I can't argue that it's not wise to be quiet in the library, but Martha, feel free to whisper any thoughts you might have as we review in depth all of the texts. And pour through each of these books in detail.
I will definitely feel free to do so. And in particular, I think that it would be good to find some texts that have some pictorial representations, perhaps of maps.
That's a great idea, Martha. We should probably look for some maps or anything that has pictures might help us in visually recognizing any clues in the future.
Symbols and where the men of letters. Maybe there was some place on the map with the men of letters where they used to be. There.
Well, why don't we make you responsible for looking for such symbols and maybe the location of the prior men of letters headquarters? I think that's a great idea, and I will look for past victims of crimes.
That sounds like a marvelous idea.
And then after here at the library, we'll stop by your habit shop.
Well, I don't so much know if there's a habit shop. However, I do happen to know that it is laundry day at the Abbey, and there might be some habits hanging out to dry, and perhaps I could borrow one.
Borrow one, Martha? This doesn't sound like you.
Well, just temporarily for the disguise.
And
I
well,
don't think they're generally for sale.
And you're not concerned about the impact to your soul?
Well, I'm going to give it back.
And
And it is for the greater good of New Orleans.
of course, the greater good, of course.
And they do have backups, so it won't be like there's a naked nun wandering around. They do usually have the one that they're currently wearing, and then they wash one, and then they swap out. So it's just her backup that we'll be borrowing.
And we'll
Mhm.
put it right back.
Yes, at the end of the mission, of course.
All right, well, shall we? And Alec gestures towards the doors of the library.
What a time. You collectively head up the stairs and into this library. You do see that upon entering, there is a desk on either side of you for reception, and there is rows and rows of books, tomes. There's one of those like very cool circular water wheel things that like rotates multiple books at one time. And it is everything Alec could hope and dream for. It is a massive library. So it sounds like you two are splitting up in the library. Okay, perfect.
I believe so. Yep.
Okay. We will follow Alec first. Alec, where are you headed? What are you looking for?
I'm not sure if Alec would know where to find this, or if Alec would find some directions from the librarian, but Alec is looking for the back catalog of Observer newspaper prints.
Yeah, you can easily be directed towards that. Yeah, you see the attendant sort of sweeps you away towards an area where they keep back issues essentially of yellowed newspapers, and they deposit you in that area. You see there are boxes of them by month going back. I will give you this fun thing. So without the need for a roll, this is kind of a gimme. You just had to ask for it. You find several recent newspaper articles, and I have taken liberty of making some headlines for you.
Okay.
I will share this with all of you, but the headlines include New Orleans gripped by mystery murders, police at a loss. Crescent City carnage, animalistic killings spark fear. Historic graveyard vandalized, occult symbols raise alarm. Community on edge, supernatural rumors swirl amidst violent deaths. Commissioner Duval urges calm, calls for rationality in face of horror. Witches or werewolves, old legends resurface as death mounts. Vigilante justice on the rise as citizens fear for safety. Secret societies in the spotlight. Could ancient feuds fuel current crisis? You can see the validity of the Crescent Observer starting to take hold. From the shadows, unexplained phenomena ignite curiosity and fear. Blood under the moon, cult rituals, or serial killer on the loose. Police ineptitude or supernatural cover-up, citizens demand answers. Witch hunts in the Big Easy, paranormal panic or prejudice. Graveyard graffiti or gateway to hell, experts baffled by occult symbols. Shadow war in the streets, unforeseen forces manipulating murder mayhem. These are I had fun. These are but a few of the recent articles published by the Crescent Observer, the local newspaper, who seems to be, as far as you've heard, is fanning the flames of fear, newspaper selling, tourism, and saying that the commissioner has no idea what he is doing.
So Alec is going to pore over these articles looking for names of victims and dates, Maybe also to see who the reporters are, and if there is a reporter who's on most or many of them.
Okay.
And any details surrounding the deaths which might create a pattern.
Okay.
And sorry, a couple of these were particularly interesting in terms of the names. Some was secret societies. Obviously, we are members of a secret society, so interested in seeing what is there. And then also the witches versus werewolves is particularly interesting. So I might deep dive on both of those.
Sure. Know that I didn't write articles for all of these. I just had fun making up the names of them. So you scour the pages of these. And what I'll say is actually roll me a learning, I think, for like reading through stuff. I'll take a learning.
One second. I just want to see it. Yeah, okay. We are in a library, so I'll get a +2 on that.
Yes.
So I got 1 success.
Okay. You go through these. Let me see here. You go through these, and you realize that, like, I don't think tabloids are a thing yet, but like this is as close as you're gonna get. Some of this in here, there are nuggets of facts and nuggets of actual journalism. But the Crescent Observer seems to be the most popular local newspaper, and it does a lot to drum up tourism. It does a lot to drum up sensationalism. It sells, right? There are you're never going to see a stack of unsold Crescent Observer newspapers here. Now, if you comb through this with a fine tooth, you can find the nuggets of truth in here. But most of it is like fanning the flames, for sure. It is a neutral stance of like no one's taking like, is it this or is it this? Like at the end of the article, it doesn't come out with a solution. It just poses the question of is it or is it, and then gives reasons, whether they're real reasons or imagined, or just like talks of legends. You can see, even with your own experience, like learning about strange things, some of this is just complete hearsay. All right, like these are like, I heard from my brother's cousin's uncle that this is a thing that happened one time. You do get a few of the names of the people, which I will also post in chat for you. One of their names is Jean-Paul Fontaine. You get this is just a fun name that I like to say. This is Remy Dubois. Those are people, and Lucas Grant.
And can we tell like the order and or dates of their death in?
Oh no, sorry. Those are the Christ, reporters. Those are reporter names.
Reporters.
Yeah. Yep.
And
those
are any of these like more frequent, or is like even distribution of reporters?
Yes. The Lucas Grant is probably the most frequent of them. Yeah. He has probably at least half of the articles, as opposed to the other two.
And Alec, being an academic and a frequent reader of newspapers and of books and doing great research, they might all be full of shit, right? To build up a lot of tourism and stuff. But Alec might also be able to recognize which ones might have more talent or might have been diving into the data more than the others.
Yeah, Lucas Grant's mostly bullshit. If you look at the list and it looks like it's bullshit, it's him. A lot of it is the equivalent of an editorial. Like he wrote it with his own opinion. You can tell the difference because like there's a lot of I statements in there, which is not common with journalism. You don't put your own feelings in there. The other two have a little bit more professional. Jean-Paul Fontaine is the most professional of the three. He wrote New Orleans Gripped by Murder Mysteries, Police at a Loss, all the ones that seem like the most factual. If it seems factual but also sensationalized, that is Remy Dubois. So like Crescent City Carnage, Animalistic Killing, Spark Fear. That is accurate but also sensationalized. He wrote that one. If it sounds like ridiculous, like witch hunts in the big city, or the one that is blood under the moon, cult rituals, or serial killer, that's for sure Lucas Grant. So you kind of pick out the ones that are ridiculous and not ridiculous, and in doing so, with that one learning, the way you read Jean-Paul's articles, you have a feeling that he knows more than he's putting. You also have a feeling, given your own knowledge base and kind of the what do you call it? Like the niche side of society that Alec is from, that transcendentalism side of, he may know more, but also probably shouldn't. Is what you'd guess. If he didn't say he knew more, there's a reason why he didn't say it. But you don't get any actual names of people that have been murdered.
Great. So is it implied that that the identities of these other victims are just simply unknown?
It is stated outright that they are unknown. It is implied in Jean Paul's that the police are keeping it that way.
Excellent. Is there anything else Alec gleans from these articles?
Not with the one. That's all you get for that one.
So before checking in on Martha and making sure she's not creating any trouble in the library, Alec will also see how far back these newspapers go. Do they go back to the date when that peace treaty was signed? Do they go back before that, or later than that, when the men or the Men of Letters was destroyed?
They don't even go remotely close to that. That would be well over 100 years of newspapers. And I don't know. They're not keeping those here in New Orleans at this time. So either the Crescent Observer didn't exist 100 years ago, or this library didn't exist 100 years ago. But either way, nothing goes back outside of the 1800s, essentially, outside of the 19th century. And these articles that seem to be appropriate to the like the murders at hand only go back about a month.
Would there be any other types of historical records in the archives here, or would we need to find that elsewhere, like in hospitals or
For the Men of Letters specifically?
Well, obviously the Men of Letters wouldn't be listed here, but maybe death records or censuses, or gosh, what else might we look for? Almanacs?
Yeah, you're looking for like
Land records?
We know there was a cataclysmic event. So,
yeah.
well, whatever that means. So you could be looking at like an almanac might be good, or something that records natural disasters or something.
Maybe if they collect old journals, something like that.
Interesting. Okay.
And we know the three people as well that were the head of the chapter at the time, I think.
You know three notable figures:
Notable
Etienne Broussard, Claudine Mercier, and René Duvalier. they were not the head. They were just important people. Okay, let me see. Let me see here. I get what you're looking for. Interesting. How do I want you to uncover this piece of information? Roll me learning to see if you can discover hidden lore in the library. Alternatively, I will allow you to use your talent to make up some bullshit that will give you a bonus +1 in addition to your other bonuses to find this thing, if that's something you want to do.
Gosh, what would be a good change of reality? Maybe there was some form of law like 100 years ago about how you needed to submit and maintain your records. Like in New Orleans 100 years ago, you must provide purchase and sale of properties, births, deaths.
I will give you a suggestion.
Okay.
I think it's what you're looking for, and it might serve you longer term, because I know you'll write it down.
Okay.
What if the reality bending talent you use, based on your current knowledge base and research level into the Men of Letters as an entire organization, you have discovered a certain way that they hide documents among the public.
Love it. Let's
Cool.
do that.
All right, so I will give you a bonus +1
Okay.
on top of your other learning bonuses for being in a library.
Great. Cross fingers.
Woo!
Okay. Okay. Very interesting.
Dice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 dice.
Jesus.
Okay. I want to give you an option between two things.
Devil's bargain for both? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Oh,
You have intrusion.
yeah, a devil's bargain for both is a good idea. So my thing was, if you got 2, you would succeed, right? If you got 2, you would succeed and find this very difficult to find thing. And if you got 3, you would get them both. Devil's bargain, such a good one. Oh, that's a great idea, John. That's a great, terrible idea. Okay, you will find one piece of information. Here's what I will tell you. You can find a piece of information that is directly relevant to the situation at hand, or maybe directly relevant to the situation at hand, or you can find a piece of information directly relevant to the Men of Letters who have disappeared in New Orleans. Devil's bargain, you can find both of them, but you are observed.
Oh. I like
Do
drama.
it.
But we're gonna do it. We're taking the bargain.
Okay. Cool. Perfect. Actually, you know what? That's a great note to end on. So we'll cut to Martha.
Are you serious?
We'll cut to I said we're gonna wait. I'll come back and do the thing I was gonna do. That'll be the ending. Relax. Relax, G. That's too much of a cliffhanger to end on. I know what they found. Okay. We see Alec maneuvering through places, very clandestine, looking at certain books, checking the shelves, and we see through rows of shelves, we see the curly red carrot top of Martha, who I assume has enough books to look like she was reading them. But Martha, what are you doing here in the library now that you have shaken your tail, as it were?
So I would be looking for either so things that have to do with symbols, because I know that there's been these symbols been painted around. So I figured that maybe if I learn a little, if I look at pictures of symbols, I might be able to glean something or learn something, and or maps. Specifically, well, I was going to say specifically looking for anything that had to do with like men of letters, or if I'm assuming back in the day this wasn't a secret society so much, especially if there was, I don't know, it seemed like they were more open, and that there was this werewolves versus witches thing that they brokered for people. So maybe there would actually be record of that, like maybe there would actually be record of like where their headquarters was, like on a map.
They are very much secret.
Oh, they were
they've always
secret.
been.
Okay.
Yeah, they were always,
All
always
right.
secret.
Well, then I'll just be looking for for the symbols. And so since I have writing items and paper, I will be trying to write down any symbols that I see. Just for that also gives me a +1 for investigation. But I will also remind you that anytime I get around writing implements, I might just happen to drift into other spaces, which would be completely up to you, if you felt that that was something you wanted to do.
Interesting. That's a good reminder. Yeah. Yeah, why not? Why not? We'll just pull talents out left and right. Cool. Yeah, I dig that. I dig that quite a bit. So what I will say in this scenario is that you begin grabbing books. Do you ask for help in looking up like symbology?
So since it probably would have been hard for me to figure out where I was going in the library, I probably would have asked, whatever front desk person or helper person kind of in general where books on symbology would be.
Sure.
And then I would have, shooed them off because, I don't want them being too prying.
Yeah, of course. You need that privacy. It's
Right.
very important.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So you get a general direction of where to go, right? And you begin pulling down books that look like they could be helpful. Very much judging books by their covers. And you begin taking notes on what you're seeing. Whether it is actually helpful or not is yet to be seen. But we will activate your automatic writing. Technique. So as you're sort of like copying down things you're seeing, and regardless of your ability to read them, you can still copy the words you're seeing out of there. You, without noticing, your hand sort of just begins to go and start writing. You begin like writing down several symbols. The first of which is a triangle. The second of which is a triangle pointing up. The second of which is a triangle pointing down. The third of which is a triangle pointing up with a line through it. The fourth of which is a triangle pointing down with a line through that. The fourth of which is a circle with a triangle inside of that, with a square inside of that, with a circle inside of that. You have no idea what these symbols mean. The fourth of which, the sixth of which is essentially like a cross, but at the top of the cross is a circle. At the top of the circle is like almost a U shape, like almost looking like horns, and then the letter S above that. And the final thing you copy down is a crescent C shape. And as you flip pages, you look back over and you realize you've written these 6 symbols.
Okay. And you are going to draw those and give those to us at some point? Question mark.
What I will do is allow you. Oh shit! How do I Yes,
Or at least
I will
write
do that.
write those descriptions down for me again.
I will do that. I was gonna say I'll let you look them up in the book, but you can't you can't read them. What I will say is roll me learning.
Okay.
Okay.
I also have a book collection where I have a +1 bonus to learning.
Let me double check here. Because this would be outside of your book collection specifically. This is library books. Let me see here. Martha. Um, do, um, writing.
Be like a dictionary to help her understand the words that she's reading in the other book.
No, this is well, this is she can find the symbols but can't read what they mean. So at least she can show somebody else what that is. But I'll give you a +1 for learning for that. That's a good argument from John.
All right, bonus die 1. Ooh, I needed it.
Okay. So you go through the books and you find these symbols you drew in the book. The book lists what these symbols mean, and they list them under a category of grouped symbols. What those words are, foreign to Martha, and how you explain to somebody else what these symbols are and why they should be of any relevance, we'll see. So,
Well, I would write down the header in my
yes.
notebook.
Okay.
Yes.
You write down the header, and for your own notes, Winters, it is the alchemical table of symbols.
Okay.
That is the header that you
Interesting.
write down. Yes, that is the header you write down. You copy down all of these symbols, and you can show them to whoever. Are you going, like, once you find these, are you going to find Alec?
Once yes, I am going to go find Alec.
Okay. Anything you're doing specifically before you get there? Because we're gonna end on Alec.
No.
Okay.
No, I'll
so-
just go back to find Alec, and I'll show it to Alec and basically say, "Look, I found some cool symbols."
Okay, so you're traversing the library. You have the page on in your hand. You have the book as well, and you're making your way through the rows of books. And we cut back to Alec, who has found what they were looking for. In a row of books, you see a almost imperceptibly so, thicker shelf than other shelves. And the men of letters are, when they are wont to do, they hide things in plain view for anyone in the know to be able to find things. You find this shelf and you press the underside, and the shelf sort of drops down, to which you see not an article, but you see like a handwritten note, right? A handwritten record, similar to the other records you found of the men of letters previously. Which I will also add this to your document. This piece of record details an artifact called the Larme de la Lune. It is believed that this artifact is real, and it significantly has influence over shape changers. Its last known location, this is written, you assume this is in the same sort of pen as the other documents you found, so your best guess is this is probably like 1700s. Its last location was rumored to be in the New Orleans bayous, but it has been lost after a devastating hurricane, is what you found out of this. Quick translation, because you're educated. Tears of the Moon is what this translates to. You find that for some reason secreted away. You're not entirely sure why, but you pick that up. And you, as you like look at this thing, you flip it over, and there is a rough hand-drawn approximation to the local area. You researched maps and you researched like the local area. There's a rough approximation to like the coastline and the area around where you are. But on that are crisscrossing lines all over the place. You're not entirely sure what that means, but you know that it must have some relevance or it wouldn't be written here. And then we see, as if the camera is sort of focusing over Alec's shoulder, as they see like the Tears of the Moon, and then they flip it over and they see this strange map, question mark. The camera sort of autofocuses down to the shelf that has slipped down, and carved into it, where the paper was, we see the initials T.W.Arch. Which, for those of you in the audience, you have no context for. But for those of you here who have forgotten 2 years ago, T.W. Arch was also the name you found inscribed in the shelf in Lenora's house, which you found out was an anagram for the Watcher.
That's first
yeah.
episode, dude.
That is episode 1. That is episode 1 shit. That is even pre-John.
That's even pre-me, yeah.
Yeah. So we see the camera sort of focus on that as Alec has this strange piece of information here. We see Martha coming from a different direction, and we see a set of eyes peeking over books, looking at Alec, quickly move through the shadows and exit the library. And that is where we end episode 28 of Mundus Novus. This one was called Qui Sont-ils, which is French for who are they? Yeah, very interesting episode. Cool. That was fun. You guys did not go places that I had planned for, which is
Well, that's
very
so uncommon for us.
yeah. I think only John went to the place that I had prepared.
I
So
called it too earlier
yeah.
in Discord.
We
yeah.
said we were going to see the coroner.
Yeah, well, so Matt had said that he was going to see the commissioner, who he thought was also the coroner. And then and I do think Melissa said library at some point. But the only one of those I had planned for was the cemetery. So
There was a
found that one.
note. There was a note from some past log that we had that had the commissioner associated as the coroner. And that's what
really?
I had been playing
That's
off
funny.
of. So that was just a whatever cue on my part.
Yeah, that's funny. Cool. All right, let's go around, do our introduction so we can get the hell out of here, and do our after show. So let's start at the top of my screen. G, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
Hello, I am G, your friendly neighborhood lightning invoker. You can find me anywhere that you'll find unMadeGaming. I'll mod during the week, and then I play in all the Patreon games, including this one, the Rise campaign, which is the 3rd Saturday of the month, and the Patreon One Shot, which is the 4th Saturday of the month. And then you'll find me and Melissa with Age of Always, Atari Twilight, which is not coming back until April, but Rise Day is also Atari Twilight Day, so... And
Hell
in
yeah.
the Discord all the time.
Hell yeah. Jump over to John. John, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
I am John. I am Ask Why or ASCII on Discord. And don't have much of a social media presence, but I do occasionally hang out in the unMadeGaming channels, and enjoy other games by all of these fine folks with the rest of it.
Hell
so
yeah.
that's me.
Hell yeah. Matt, who are you? Where can we find you? What are you up to?
Well, I'm Bon in the Discord, BON, and pretty much the only place you'll find me is in World of Warcraft, raiding with 2 different guilds on Storm Rage, Puff Puff Pass, and Socially Distant. Both
that.
awesome groups of people.
Love that.
Oh, and
Matt,
also everybody should be watching Atari Twilight. It is freaking awesome. Really, everybody should get into it.
Agreed. Go check it out.
I'm not playing in it, but I love watching it, and I love the story. So the whole Tales from the Loop thing is just so much fun.
Yeah, and it's been going on. We discovered last session that it's been going on for 5 years.
Wow.
Is that we've been playing since 2019. So it's been going on for 5 years, an insane amount of time, which is pretty cool.
And everybody should also check out Melissa's art for it too, because it's also really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We'll plug the website as we always do. But until we get to Melissa, Wintress, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
Well, I am Wintress, which you just said, and I mean, if you really want to find me on the internet, you can Google me. There's not a lot of Wintress Odoms floating around, but I don't know why you would want to. But my contact information isn't too difficult to find, or you can just find Melissa and she'll know where I am. That's about it. I'm very boring.
I disagree. Having played in several games with you, I disagree. But we will conclude, last but not least, with Melissa. Who are you? Where can we find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
I also agree. I think Wintress is the least boring person you might have ever met. But I am Melissa Meyer, also known as Draft Deer. I'm a hobbyist artist, and you can find my unMadeGaming fan art on gameswithstories.com. I am in this monthly Patreon game, Mundus Novus. And hey, let me take a moment to plug the Patreon. I think it's fantastic, a great community of people. We play lots of games. We have lots of great conversations. You should join us. Occasionally you can find me in the Patreon one-shots. Beyond that, I am in the Atari Twilight Age of Always game. And I think she said next April. And otherwise you can find me in the Discord. Other than that, I think I'm always here following and watching all of Mike's games, including The Rise, which is also an amazing game that you should watch if you have an opportunity. Mike is on point as always as a fantastic GM, and I think our fellow community members do an excellent job of, telling an epic story about mortals becoming gods. It's super cool. You should check it out.
I agree. That is very cool.
Oh yeah, and also just in case you ever do pitch it or do one live, if Mike has created this really awesome universe called Crystal Legacy, and I don't think any of those are publicly broadcast yet, but if you ever do one, everybody should watch it. It is the coolest universe. It is incredibly original, and hell, I'd even like to live stream that one. That one is just a lot of fun to play in.
That would be very interesting to jump in. What are we like?
It's
20 episodes into that one too.
It's unique yet just so easy to absorb. It's really cool. So
I'm glad you all like the things I do, the nonsense that lives in my brain. Thank you for all the accolades. Most of this cast plays in the Crystal Legacy game, which is an offline, non-streamed game. That is very derivative of Final Fantasy. They are my beta testers for a world that I'm working on. But that is neither here nor there. If you like what we do here and you want to support the community, watch all the shows. Go comment on YouTube. Do all those things. Leave a heart for engagement. But most importantly, join us on the Patreon. Link in the description down below for that. While you're down there, click on that Discord link. Join us in the Discord. Be a part of the community. Be a part of the conversation. And that's it. That's it for us. We will see you guys next month for more of these shenanigans. So from all of us to you guys, bye-bye.